Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well and painting some beautiful artworks and learning something new every time. In this video I'm going to do something quite different, something maybe in depth. I got a few requests about water and rocks, so I thought to myself, why not create something, a nice little subject of rocks popping out of water with little ripples around them, something like that. Now I have a nice biggish canvas here. It's 30 by 20 inches. I have a quick sketch on this as well. I just thought this might make a nice little subject as practice, really. Now I will be going into some depth in this, and I won't say realism, but very kind of, I will try to get it realistic as possible. So I have a photograph here on my phone. I'm going to show you what we will paint. You might not like this, it may be a little bit too advanced for you, but you can simplify things like this as well. I think it might make a nice challenge, just to push the envelope just a little bit. Now I have this picture. What do you think about something like this? Let me see if I can get this up here now. Something like that. Ripples on the water, some rocks, and I wanted to show you how to paint rocks underwater. So it may sound quite difficult, sound quite complicated, but it's actually very easy when you think about it, and when you paint it, it's actually much easier than you think. So we will learn a lot about kind of softening colours, colour theory as well. There will be a little bit of colour theory in this as well, because the brain, when you're thinking about rocks underwater, the brain tells you the colour of the rocks, even though it may not be the colour on the photograph. So you have to allow for the light blue of the water as well, which is reflecting the sky. So you have a very light blue, kind of a hint, a tint or a haze on top of the water as well. So you're trying to figure out, or your brain is trying to figure out, that colour with the rocks underneath. It can sound quite complicated, and when I first started painting things like this, I found it very difficult to comprehend mixing colours of rocks underwater, so allowing for that light blue on top of the water as well. So you're kind of training your brain really to understand colours. So I think you might find this quite interesting, and I will simplify it. I will use very simple terms. I might not even go into too much detail and depth. So we could maybe paint this and just simplify it anyway, still creating a lovely realistic painting. So I think it might be a nice challenge. What do you think? Let's try it. I think this will make a nice painting when it's framed. It'll be really eye-catching. And again, lights and darks, that's the key. Okay, lights and darks really catch the eye in a painting. So let's try it. Let me know what you think at the end of the video. I will probably do 2 parts to this. We might have to go into a 3rd part of the tutorial just for details, but we'll start it. We'll see how we go. There'll be no rush, no panic. We'll take our time. You can follow me along, and you can pause the video every now and then. Just do try it, because it will really expand your thinking about colour. So yeah, let's go have some fun. Don't go anywhere. Right, my friends, let's go. Let's have a bit of fun with this. This is my canvas. I have a very light sketch. I don't know if you can see that sketch just there. It's very light. So I'm going to start at the very top and work down. I think what I might do is paint all of this lovely water with the ripples, come down and paint the rocks under the water, and in part 2 or part 3, whatever, we'll then focus on these lovely rocks and get some detail on those. So that's my plan. I have a palette here. I'll tell you what colours I'm using. Titanium white, lamp black, Naples yellow, burnt umber, cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, phaylo blue, magenta and cadmium red. It's just to have a variety of colours there. That's all, just so I don't be looking for colours later on. I like to do it like that, just have a nice arrangement of colours. So I'm going to take a big brush. Any big large brush you have. This is a flat brush, 3/4 of an inch. Anything like that. They're all soft synthetic brushes, okay? So let's go. Let's have a bit of fun. I have some thinners, which is turpentine with a little couple of drops of linseed oil as well. It makes a lovely thinners. So let's dampen our brushes. I'm going to start with you see the dark greeny grey kind of colours we have up here in those ripples. I'm going to start with those. So I'm going to take first a little white. Let's get some white first. And the white just thickens the paint up really. I'm then going to go for some black. And I'll take a hint of phaylo blue. And then I'll take a tiny hint of cadmium yellow. Now this takes a bit of practice getting colours right. I'm looking at the colour. It's kind of a dark greeny grey on one side, we'll say. And there's a bit more green on the other side over here. I might take a touch of burnt umber into that. And you can kind of add to it as you're going as well. So let's just kind of go like this. Let's put a couple of squiggles across the canvas like that. And in general, they seem to be getting kind of wider as they come in. Or sorry, as they go out of the painting, they seem to be getting a little wider. So I just kind of copy that theory. Let's just take more burnt umber, a little bit of phaylo blue, can make it a little bit more blue, I suppose. And I do always generally start with a thinner mix as well at the beginning, because it's very easy to add thicker colours over thin colours, but it's very difficult if you put on a very thick colour to then make it thin, to put more stuff over that. So I like to start off with slightly thinner mixes at the beginning. Does that make sense? Now I'm going to come down and do this one. That's a better colour now, I think. I'm going to come down and do this one here. And I'm just being very loose now with all of this. I'm just kind of wiggling the brush as I go along. Like that. You see, just don't be trying to get this perfect first time. You know, I'll probably be going over a lot of this again. So I'm just getting a general impression of where the colours are, what they're doing, where the shapes are going. That's all I'm doing really. Okay, let's go for more burnt umber, more phaylo blue. And by the way, burnt umber and phaylo blue will give you this nice dark kind of a greeny, browny green colour. So we've one coming across there, it kind of goes into one here, and then we've a big area up here. And as I said before, now I'm not going to copy the photograph exactly, okay? It's really just, I'm just after an impression, a nice impression. So the way I work in painting like this is I generally go for kind of an impression on most of the painting, but when it gets down to some little rocks or something like this or little details, I then kind of focus in on these few little details and really add proper detail to those. I think that's, for me, it works much nicer. It's a much easier way of painting. So you're bringing the focus just in on one subject, or in this case, a few subjects. But that's how I generally paint most of my paintings. I think if you can get one subject with a bit of detail, which really catches the eye, that's really going to work, and the rest of the painting will follow suit. So you don't have to have, you know, lots of detail everywhere in your painting. You could just have a certain subject with lots of detail and make everything else just a quick impression. Now, a little bit more phaylo blue there. I'm just kind of winging it here, just kind of messing around really, that's all. Just adding some colours and seeing what happens. Put a bit up here. Just trying to keep the curvature of everything just right, okay? Could go down a bit here as well. So we're kind of following this sort of curve here. and make a bit more of a curve here as well. Okay, that's a bit better. Now I'm going to make a slight more green up here. So I'll take some cadmium yellow and just mix it into that colour I already had, and maybe a hint of burnt sienna. Just a warm, kind of a muddy green. So this will take, just take your time, add colours as you need, just keep going. Just keep taking your time, that's all. Now another thing you can do to create hints of reflections in those colours, let's get some cadmium yellow, and you could simply just pop some cadmium yellow in here and there. Now you may not see this, but what I'm doing is just in these green areas creating the impression of little hints of reflections. It could be from trees or anything like that, but you can see it's just sort of adding little hints of colour here and there. You could go light yellow, you could go dark yellow, anything you like. We could add some burnt umber perhaps into some of this, just give a little hint of dark reflections of the trees here and there in that colour. And over on the other side we could do the opposite. We could make it a dark bluey green and perhaps just add a few of those in there as well. And when this is all softened in and blended together, it'll look like little hints of reflections. You can almost begin to see it already, can't you? I'm going to stop now at that. I think I'll stop where I am. Because that's all we need really, my friends, for this side of things. Now, first let's pull these down. Soften all of these together. I'm not blending them away completely. I'm just softening the brush strokes out, and then we'll come straight across over some of those, look. Blend them away so we have a nice little impression of a reflection in that ripple. And a lot of this that I'm doing now is I'm just kind of chancing it really to see what happens. There's no foolproof formula for painting something like this. For me, it's just a case of trial and error. Try it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, try something else. I'm cleaning this brush and I'm going for my very bright blues now, okay? This is what's really going to catch your eye, I think, these bright blues. So, with a nice clean brush, let's get some phaylo blue. And let's just go for some white, I suppose. Let's just keep it simple, blue and white, I'm thinking. And a little bit of thinners, just to thin it out. Now that might be a bit rich. I think that may be a bit rich, so I'll take a hint of magenta. Just to tone it down ever so slightly. There is plenty of white in this as well, but that little touch of magenta will tone down the blue just a bit, make it a bit softer. Okay, there we go. And quite simply just go in between everything that you just painted there, just go right in between them all. And it's just, it's a bit like painting by numbers really. If you can get your sketch just right, it's very easy to just paint in between all your lines. And what I would say here, the trick is softening the colours together just slightly, okay, just ever so slightly, softening your colours together. You see the way this is picking up some of the green? That's nice, I like that. That really helps your painting. And I will be kind of going in with maybe a palette knife or a smaller brush even with this later. So this is not the finished product, so to speak. Let's put a little one here and a little bit coming out here as well. Breaking up the reflection. Now you can see me doing this in real time. So there's no reason why you can't follow me along, really. You can just pause the video when you feel it's getting a bit too far ahead. Just pause the video and go back. But you can see how I'm kind of just simplifying all of this. I'm just trying to keep it simple. I'm using a few colours. I'm taking my time. So I think you will have no trouble in painting something like this. Just take your time. Take your time, my friends. Let's go in here. Look, let's put one in here. Now I know all of these brush strokes are very kind of loose at the moment. I will refine and define these brush strokes a little better as I go on, all right? I'm just getting the white areas filled in. That's what I'm trying to do, really. I'm just covering the white of the canvas. That's my main goal right now, covering this white of the canvas with colour. I'll refine all the edges and stuff like that later on, so not to worry about those. Now you could of course just leave it as it is, it's absolutely fine, nothing wrong with that at all. But I want to just go the extra little bit. I've just added a little more pink and blue into the mix just there, because if you look closely at the photograph, you can see there is a kind of a pinky blue. There's hints of pink in this colour, here and there. And I think that hint of pink will just warm it up nicely. Let's take another hint of pink. Put a little more pink in. Come down here around the rocks. Just to get that shape in first. I can put my greens in between all of this now, so not to worry about all of the greens, okay? So you can see how quickly now we've gotten that together, just that little section all along there. Isn't that nice? And it's, you know, it's simple. It's not overdone. I think now I go to a smaller brush and I just maybe refine some of it. I might take some white and a little blue, and I'm going much thicker with the paint now, okay? Just to get some nice solid brush strokes. So, for example, I go over here. I'm going to come like that. I'm going to go in and stop. And then bring it out. I think if we just spend a little time on this area up here, it will make a difference later when the painting is finished, hopefully. But I think if we just spend a little more time on certain areas, it will help. Let's go and refine some of this as well. Just kind of just go around and you see I'm just adding more just to the edges, just to make it stand out that little bit more. A little bit more white now, a little bit more blue, and we'll go over here. See what I mean? I'm just kind of going in and flicking in the edges, make it a little bit cleaner and crisper. That makes sense? But it's a lot of fun doing this. You should really try something like this. It opens your mind to different techniques, really, and learning different ways of creating a subject. I'll pop another nice. I could even join these two together here, actually. So you see those little hints of that blue, and maybe even make a nice mauve or something. Those little hints of that colour mixed in here and there. It really does just catch the eye. And I'll be honest, I'm not looking at the reference photograph that much. I'm just kind of going at my own intuition here. I'm just adding a little bit here, a little bit there, seeing what happens. Now this could all go completely wrong. But at least if it goes completely wrong, you will see it going completely wrong, and you will see it, how I adjust it and change it. You know, I like to show you my mistakes as well, because it just goes to show I don't think any artist is perfect. Me included. I'm not perfect. I'm only an amateur as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't consider myself a professional by any means. But I like to show mistakes, because even professional artists will make mistakes. But the problem with YouTube is all those professional artists out there, they will never show you their mistakes. They will always show you the painting from start to finish, perfectly done, no mistakes. And I just like to show people if I make a mistake. I'm just an honest kind of an artist like that. I don't see why I shouldn't. If you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn, are you? Okay, let me just stop there. And I'm just going to then maybe flick in some little bits of white. How about that? And I might darken some of the greens then as well. So let's take a little bit of white on the tip of our brush, thick white paint. And I'm just kind of looking at the reference photograph briefly, you know. Let's just say there's a bit of white going along there. And there could be a little bit of white flicking in here. It could be little bits of white from clouds or whatever, reflecting. Could be anything. But it just adds a little something to it. Let's just soften it around here and there. A little bit there. Soften a little bit in there. My apologies. And come up, pop a little bit in there as well. You know, we don't have to go crazy with all of this, but I think just a little bit. There's no harm. Now, how's that so far? The next thing I want to do is just darken some of the darks. And we're pretty much done up here, I'll be honest. There's no need to keep going. Let's take some burnt umber and phthalo blue. That mix will give you a nice dark green. And I'm going to come up here and just refine some of them, see? I'm making it very dark on my palette because when you put it on, it starts mixing and it's going to lighten. That's the trick sometimes with oil painting. When you put it on wet, the colour is going to mix with the colour on the canvas. So I try to make the mix slightly darker on my palette. So when I put it on, I can allow for that colour to lighten slightly. Does that make sense? It's just something you need to, that I would say, think about. I'll just put this little round one in here. I'm not being too fussy with this now. I'm just simply looking at the photograph, and where you see these shapes and these darks, then just put them in. That's really what I would say. Wherever you see those shapes, just pop them in. You can make up your own as well. You don't have to copy the photograph exactly. You could add a few extra yourself. By all means. And I come up here, maybe just add a little sienna, bit of brown, add a little bit of that colouring up there. Now, you could also go into some yellow, pop a little bit of yellow in there. So you can see we're kind of going over slightly what we've done earlier, you know, and that's fine, it's absolutely fine. I will take a little light colour, just pop a little light in there. Maybe even a bit of green. A bit of green in there as well. All I'm doing is just making those edges a little bit harder, that's all, a little bit stronger. And just to even things up slightly, I might put some of that dark colour around up here as well. So I'm pretty happy with what we've done. I'm then going to just soften all of this. Now the trick with softening this is to go in that curve, okay? Go in that nice little curve like that. Let's just soften very gently. Soften out the edges, that will give you that nice soft effect. Very gently. I'm not making it completely soft. I'm just taking some of the brush strokes out of the paint. Does that make sense? And I'm going to leave it at that then. I think we're finished up on top as far as I can see. We can always come back and go at this later. It's no problem. Now, how's that? I would say that looks pretty good. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm just going to zoom in on the reference photograph very slightly, just to have a look around. And I think we'll leave it at that for now. I like the nice haziness on top, because that'll give us really nice details when it gets to these rocks here. Really nice details. What I might do, so, what time have we? We have 25 minutes, so we're going pretty good. I'm going to come down maybe and fill in some of these rocks. And let's see if we can create that feeling of the rock under the water. Now, it's been a while since I've done this, so bear with me. I'm probably learning just as much as you here, I'll be honest. What I might do is make a nice dark blue for down here. I'm going to cover everything in a nice, rich, dark, warm kind of a blue. Now, I'm just going to try this. I'm not sure if this is going to work out. This is something I think I'll just try. Magenta, blue, and maybe a touch of black. And then a hint of white, just to make it a little pasty. Okay, a bit more magenta. That was too much. Again, a bit more black, and another hint of blue. I'm just going to make this a kind of a muddy mauve grey sort of a colour. And into that then I'm going to put my rocks. This is probably a different technique that you've seen, but whenever I paint rocks under the water, this is normally the technique that I would use. It's just something that seems to work for me. I'm messing around now with my colours. I'm putting a little bit of cadmium red in there as well. I'm going to leave some of the bigger rocks. You see these kind of bigger ones that are really showing out. I just want to leave some of those. Okay. And you've probably seen tutorials out there with subjects like this, and they spend hours and hours and hours, you know, going around this, painting each rock individually and all that kind of thing. You know, you've probably seen that. I don't really tend to do that. I tend to work quickly and fill in areas and then paint rocks over that area. Because this for me is all, it's wet and wet. So I can afford to do this, paint in the rocks and soften it all together. That's basically the trick, I think, with painting rocks underwater. But you must think of the colour slightly differently. So all the colours of the rocks are going to have kind of a purpley hue to them. And I'll try and explain to you and show you what I mean. I just need to go up first and add some more dark colour just around here and there. Just some of that colour here, just to bring some of that in as it's coming down, okay? Just a kind of continuation of the green coming down and coming in. It's just very loose now, just to kind of bring it down, that's all. Okay, let's go and paint some rocks. I'm going to start with some of the lighter rocks. There's a lot of, I can see yellows and siennas and that kind of stuff in here. So I'm going to take some sienna, some Naples yellow, and perhaps I'll start painting a couple of rocks. Now the nice thing about all of this is that it's going to mix with the blue. And I'll be very honest, I'm going to just make this all my own. I'm not going to look at the reference photograph too much. I'd like to just make this all my own, add my own rocks into all of this, so to speak. So, burnt sienna, blue, go for that dark greeny colour. And let's just pop some rocks in, random rocks, okay? Don't worry about lights and shades or anything like that, just get some shapes in. It's all about getting shapes in and working on top of them. Once you have shapes in there, that's the tricky part done, getting the shapes in. I'm just popping in lots of impressions of rocks right now. Naples yellow, burnt umber, we'll put a couple of those types of ones in. We'll take some cadmium yellow and burnt sienna, pop of those, a couple of those in there. So you can see now already, and the nice thing about this is that it mixes with that blue. So your colours will naturally become soft, because that blue will kind of cancel out the colours and soften them slightly. We also have a couple that are kind of a bright bluey green as well. Let's get some phaylo blue, cadmium yellow, and add some white. And I'm doing all this now with the same brush. I'm mixing everything with the same brush. Okay? Now you see how quickly I'm working here. I'm doing that on purpose, all right? Because if you take your time like this, look, if I'm taking my time like this and I'm painting every little thing perfectly, I tend to get lost in that one little piece. Whereas by going quickly, say like this, okay, just going quickly like this, it's forcing you to not think too much about it. Grab colour, put it on, and that is kind of, in a way, is forcing you to think quickly. A little bit of a pink one there, look, let's just have a bit of fun. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Let's get a bit of brown. Pop a bit of brown in, here and there, look. And we can take some black on that same brush, pop a little bit of black in. I generally put in the colours first, then I worry about the dark sides and the light sides afterwards. I get a dark side in here, look, for you, just to show you. Soften it up, like that. Just soften it up into your rock. Okay? Take a bit of burnt sienna, pop a little burnt sienna in on here. And I generally worry about my highlights, my rich bright highlights last. They're the very last things that I will put in. But look, just to show you, I'm going to put one in here. Put a little highlight in there, scrape it back. So can you see now how all of this comes together? It takes time. It takes a lot of time. I'm going to go in now around these with a nice dark colour. So I'll show you what I do here. Magenta, phaylo blue, rich magenta and phaylo blue on their own, I think. Okay, grab some of that colour. I'm going to go in and around some of these. In fact, I'll take a hint of black, look, as well. I'm going to go in and around some of these with that colour, just to show that it's nice and dark in between these. Almost black, I suppose, but I'm keeping it blue. As it comes up, then it kind of lightens slightly. I just want to get that nice deep dark colour down around the bottom down here. Now, because we're only in part one, I want to show you how I kind of soften all of this together. It doesn't need to be done now, but before I go, I just wanted to show you how I would soften this together to make it look like it's underwater. Okay? Now these aren't done yet. There's still highlights and stuff to go on these. What I might do is maybe just put a few highlights on one or two of them, just to show you how I would do it. Okay? Then I will soften a few of them together, just so you can see the effect of them being underwater. Okay? When I come back in part two, then we'll work away. Then we just get some cadmium yellow. Just want to get a few little highlights, maybe on some shadows on some of these under the water. Okay, so this is all underwater. Let's take some blue and some white. I'm going to start with some rich, bright highlights. Okay, pop a couple there. I'm going to put a few nice ones on this here. Softening the colour in slightly. Now, let's get some cadmium yellow, white, just kind of a whitey green on this, all right? I'm just hitting this with some bright colours, just to show you the impression of highlights. So just keep thinking to yourself, these are the rocks under the water. The highlights are going to be very general, very loose kind of highlights, okay? Just keep remembering that. Put a nice one over here, look, nice bright yellowy one here. Keep adding different colours, mix it up. Maybe, you can even use a palette knife now for this as well if you like. And then I will try maybe a couple of light pink highlights. Try a nice pink one here. You see the way I'm just going along very quickly and adding colour on, just being very random. You know, I don't even know if this is going to look okay or not. I just don't know. I'm just being very loose. I'm trying to stop myself from thinking too much about all the little details, because if you start doing that, it gets very messy and you start losing focus. I'm popping some black and burnt umber in here and there just to create a few little shadowed areas, all right? Just a couple. And soften them in slightly. So look, we have a couple done. I want to show you now how I would soften these. Basically, it's very simple. Just get your soft brush and go over them with your soft brush, okay? Very lightly. So look, let me get this nice and clean. What I do then, because these are under the water, you have a layer of water over these. They're going to be slightly hazy, okay? They're not going to be completely sharp and have sharp edges. They're going to be slightly soft and hazy and kind of softened in. Now, the softer the brush, the better, okay? So try and get yourself a real nice soft brush and just soften these out from each other. Even if you're dragging the paint slightly, you see the way the paint is dragging ever so slightly over these. That's absolutely fine. Now go over where you have highlights and darks and just kind of soften them together ever so gently. Just go left and right. You can go left and right, you can go at an angle like this, whatever you think. The goal here is to just soften all of these rocks out to make them nice and hazy, to look like they're under the water and there's a layer of water over them. Okay, now the trick comes when you start putting layers on top of these. So let me show you something very, very quickly. If I took a small flat brush, okay? If I took some phaylo blue and some white, and let's imagine we've a ripple going across some of these, okay? Let's just imagine we've a ripple like that. Now I don't know if you can see that, but what it's doing is dragging some of those colours into each other. Okay. It then, straight away, what that does is it pushes all those rocks down underneath the water. I'm going to zoom in and show you, because I think you'll benefit from seeing this up close. Okay? Now, I have some paint on my brush. If I cut across one of those, like that, you can begin to see how it pushes everything under. All right. So, for example, let's pick one down here. Look, I go across that, like so, and then I soften it out, just gently. You can begin to see already those little ripples. They sort of push those rocks down under the water. Okay. Now we have a lot more to do on this, a huge amount, but it's coming together ever so slowly. Okay. Part 2 is going to be painting all these rocks, getting them all nice, and part 3 then maybe concentrate on these ones here, nice little details, and we can add little bits of light and all that kind of stuff into these as well. So my friends, I'm going to leave you with that, part 1 finished. I hope you enjoyed it so far. There's still a lot to do, but I think it's coming on quite nice. There is bits and pieces that we can tidy up as we're going, but I think, let me fix the exposure, it's very light on this. In general, I think we're doing quite well. So I'll see you right back here on part 2. Don't go anywhere. I'll clean my brushes, change my tissue paper, clean turpentine, and we'll start part 2. Okay? I'll see you right back here. Thank you for joining.